This is my Olympus EM5 Mark II. In my opinion, it's a fantastic little camera. It's got all the buttons, it's got all the dials, it's packed full of features that I didn't even know that I needed. The only negative to this camera, micro four thirds, that tiny little sensor. You cannot shoot landscapes. Do not go out at night. Noisy long exposures. Blurry backgrounds that just don't exist. Who would buy one of these cameras? Me, I bought one, me. I would suggest that this camera is great for people like me who have the same thoughts and opinions on photography as I do. I don't really care about what camera I'm out using. I don't need to impress people with a brand. I don't need to impress people with a price tag. I just want my photographs to do the talking for me, and I kind of sometimes like the element of surprise when people ask what camera it was taken on. I go, it's a silly little micro four thirds thing, and I think that kind of nails the whole thing about photography for me anyway, is that it should be the end result that matters, and it's not the equipment and gear that is used to capture it. So my EM5 Mark II here with a kit lens on, I think I'm probably going to swap this lens out because I have a filter for it, and I've come out today with the idea of taking one photograph with the camera. But then I want to do something a little bit different, a little bit new for this channel. You see, a few days ago, I was talking to one of you guys, a subscriber called Ryan King on Facebook, and he sent me some drone photos. Now, me and Ryan have the same drone, and to be honest, I was quite impressed with the images that Ryan sent me, and it's not something I've ever really considered doing before myself on this channel. So the ruins behind me that I'm going to take a photograph of with this, once we've got the one photograph that I need, we're then going to put the drone in the air and see what happens. So let's crack on and take a photograph. Now, a couple of videos back, I came out here with the intention of shooting this, and it didn't really work. Time and tide were not on my side, but today it's midday, the tide is coming in, we have the time and we have the tide. So the plan is to get a very minimalistic long exposure photograph of these ruins here. They're kind of in a square shape, and I've always really been drawn to them, but I've never managed to get a photograph that I'm happy with, and that is my first port of call today, is to get just one photograph of these that I'm happy with and that I can call, say, portfolio quality. So I'm going to get set up, possibly on this concrete slab here, and I'm going to wait for the tide to come in a little bit more. I'm going to use the EM5 Mark II with my 6mm Laowa lens. It's a really wide angle lens, and it's just going to allow me to get everything in and create something really kind of funky. But I think it needs a foreground, and looking on the beach, there are lots of rocks and lots of bits of concrete, so we may have to design something here. We may have to design a photograph, but hey, it's my interpretation of this. And again, that is what photography is all about. It should be about capturing a moment and your interpretation of it. So let's get something set up and see if we can't create a really nice photograph. All right, so we've got the photograph composed now. There are two pieces of concrete just in the immediate foreground here, and you may be able to see the water swirling around it is leaving some really nice wet foot. Really nice swirly patterns in the surface it's going out. So that's what I'm trying to do, is use that in the middle as a foreground. And then we've just got the two larger pieces of concrete in the background, and that's where we're going to get the long exposure. And, you know, it's going to look quite fun. So I'm going to try and time this as the waves are going out. So in terms of filters, I'm using a polarizer just to take some of the wet foot glare off of everything. I'm using the 10-stop filter just to give me that long exposure. I've also put a 3-stop soft edge graduated filter on the top just to bring the scar back just a little tiny bit. So let's look, we've got f11, ISO 200, and we're going for 8 seconds. Now I need to time this as a wave comes in and leaves all the fun swirly little bits in the foreground. So let's have a look. Here's something coming. Right, 2-second timer. We should be able to catch this. There's all of the wet feet. Oh, it's a really cold 2 wet feet now. The tide's coming in, you may have guessed. It's one of them, I've kind of accepted that I'm going to get wet. There's a photograph, how does it look? Could be better, let's try again. There we go, some more swell going on there now. Come on. Oh, that one looks a lot better. So here's the first photograph. So I think that photograph turned out all right. I'm kind of hoping that's the one for the keeper, and I don't have to keep coming back and grabbing this one, because when you come to this bit of beach, there isn't really an awful lot else to take photographs of, unless the tide is really high and you've got a really nice sunrise, and there are better places to go for sunrise around here. So hopefully that's that one with a big tick next to it. So now it's time to have a bit of fun. Now, aerial photography is something I've seen a lot of, and I've always been quite impressed with it, but it's not something I've ever really dabbled with myself. And when it comes to the aerial stuff, I really do like that top-down sort of look. So I kind of think that's what we're going to go for. So I'm thinking of using the same subject again. I'm going to have a top-down image with a surf around it leading up to some beach, and I want to use a clever way of using thirds in this photograph. So I'm going to move off my little concrete perch because I think we're about to get wet here. I'll move a little bit further up on the beach. We'll get the drone in the air and let's just start taking some photos and see if it matters. Does it matter what camera you're using to take a photograph? I don't think so. So my drone is a DJI Mini 2. It's a relatively old drone at this point, but it will take 12 megapixel RAW files. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to record the screen on my phone so you can see everything that I'm doing, and I'm kind of going to talk you through the thought process while we're doing it. I'm hoping this isn't going to take too long. There are a few people appearing on the beach, and past experiences with drones, people do tend to get a little bit excited, so I'm hoping I'm not really getting anybody's way. So let's have a look. Let's go take this first photograph and let's see what happens. All right, so the screen is recording, the drone is flying. You can probably just about hear it on the camera, so let's have a look. So let's go over to the ruins and get just a little bit of altitude. Now I think we'll try 50 feet first to see if that's enough. There we go, 50 feet. Let's point the camera down because obviously we want to get the top-down view from this. The camera's now pointing down at 90 degrees. Now a little bit more altitude is probably needed here for this one then. Let's have a look. Let's move a little bit closer over it. Oh, there we go. I quite like that altitude. Now you may be able to see what I'm going to do with the third point here, but let's just turn this to photo mode. So we're shooting JPEG plus RAW, a single shot. I want to rotate this drone just a little bit. There we go. So now what we're doing with the thirds here. So you see down the left-hand third point there is just mostly beach. The middle third point there is going to be mostly waves. And the third point is going to be the ruin and the sea. So I think a little bit more altitude is going to be needed here for this. There we go. That's a little bit better. Oh, camera crapped itself then. Let's have a look. If I tap on the screen, can I focus? No. Right, so I'm kind of happy with that. I can see what I'm going to do with this one, so just go ahead. There's a button on the back of the drone. First photograph has been taken. Do you know what? I think we're going to bring the drone home. We'll leave that for now for the drone photos, and we'll see if we can get the camera out and just take another photograph while we're here. Now that the tide's come in around my original subject, let's just see if we can't take one more of it. Alright, so here we are, same main subject again. Only this time we're using a slightly different foreground, which is an old slab of concrete with a couple of big stones around it. I'm using the 6mm Laowa lens once again. I'm using the polarizer to set the shine off the wet rocks. I'm using a 10-stop filter just to give me that long exposure look. So we're f11, 13 seconds, and ISO 200. I'm just waiting for a wave just to come around and swirl around this rock. Hopefully that'll just create some really nice motion, some texture and some patterns in the surf around the rock. I'm a little bit concerned about the waves at the minute because they do seem to be washing some of the sand away from around my tripod feet, but hopefully, here we go, 2-second timer, as this big wave just rolls around all of this rock in front and all this foam and all this white, it's just going to create some really nice fun textures and patterns in the foreground, I hope. Oh, actually, that's really quite nice. Yeah, I really quite like that photograph. Here it is. So I'm just looking at the last photograph that I was just showing you through the viewfinder. Obviously this camera has an EVF and I really love the contrast between the concrete block in the front with a little bit of colour, the white surf leading up to these very dark ruins in the background. I actually really quite like that one. I think that may be the keeper that I've been looking for. I think that probably works a little bit better than the first photograph that I've taken of the same subject. So there's a lesson for people. Just keep trying, just try different angles, different things, have a walk around and something may pop up. Obviously the tide wasn't quite there when I got here originally, but as I've been here a little while now, the tide's there, it's covered that block. It's one of those things with photography where if at first you don't succeed, you try and try again. And that is probably one of the biggest lessons that you can take away from this video today. So with that being said, I do hope you enjoyed the video. I really have enjoyed getting out and just making something a little bit different for a change. If you did enjoy it, please do give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. And just tell me, how do you think I actually did today with the drone photos? It's the first time I've really gone out and taken a couple of aerial photos. I've not too much experience with it. I assume that the same photography principles apply as they would do with a handheld camera, but yeah, I'd just like to know what you actually thought of them in the end. If you're new here, please do consider subscribing. I'm getting close to 10,000 subscribers, which would be quite nice to reach that before the end of the year. It's not a figure I ever thought I'd be looking at or considering reaching, so just a big thank you to everybody that already has subscribed to my channel. So I guess it's time to leave, yeah, and say peace and goodbye.